please now check the video, and then Judith will take over, and we're going over to the agriculture session.
Across sectors. However, the climate services field faces challenges like the low awareness about the use of climate knowledge for adaptation, limited interdisciplinary collaboration, and a lack of widely adopted quality standards. These gaps make it difficult to build trust and ensure the credibility of services. That's where Climateurope2 platform comes in. The platform is designed to connect the climate services community, strengthen collaboration, and support the uptake and standardization of climate services across Europe and beyond. Connect with the growing climate services community. The Check Our Network section allows users to connect with their peers and see who does what in the climate services landscape. Explore, engage members, and exchange chat messages. Co-create documents that shape the future of climate services. The Co-create section enables collaboration on early drafts of documents relevant for climate services and their standardization, like guidelines, good practices, or recommendations. It's more than commenting, it's about co-producing knowledge, aligning with open science practices, and building consensus with experts from different disciplines across the climate services field. Explore documents and resources. Final documents approved for public access can be found in the Explore Libraries section, the main information hub of the platform. A growing collection of materials is provided, organized in a clean, easy-to-use catalog, which includes practical use cases, guidelines, best practices, and more. Visualize trends and insights. Under the View Analytics section, you'll find the Climateurope2 Visual Analytics dashboard. This tool helps you explore many topics such as climate services and see what the discourses around them are, drawing insights from news, company reports, NGOs, public bodies, and research papers. The Climateurope2 platform is more than a repository. It's a hub for collaboration, innovation, and trust in climate services. Visit the Climateurope2 platform to connect with a vibrant and equitable climate services community across Europe, participate in the co-creation of knowledge and consensus building regarding the standardization of climate services, and explore data and documents on topics of relevance for the community.
All right, that's, I guess, where I come in. Welcome everybody. Please go to the platform on another moment. So we are starting now with the session on agriculture. We will have 5 interesting presentations today. Let me log in first. All right. At the end, I want to have time for some questions, and we're already a little bit delayed. So we will have just 1 or 2 questions after each presentation. Please all keep your questions, and we will keep our answers as short as we can, so that we will have some time at the end for the discussion. One of the main goals of our project is to develop the climate services community. Climate services for agriculture have a very long history, so the community already exists, but we need to draw it more into the core of our project. Hopefully today is a good start for that. So fasten your seatbelts, and here we go. Our first speaker is Niels Hempelman from ECMWF. If you were here yesterday, you already heard him present an introduction to the climate services for agriculture. ECMWF has been quite active in producing such services, and so Niels, please tell us more about how your organization is working at this.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot again for the opportunity of speaking out here now. Yesterday there was already a little bit of an teaser introduction to climate services for agriculture. And one point that I made yesterday is kind of you can't separate the different sectors or domains. And so that's also kind of, we need to take that into account, that climate services is for agriculture, but plus the related left and right. And then also in the discussions that we had already is a kind of polycrisis. And yeah, the system is quite more complex than just only one point. I would like to guide you through a couple of products that we produce, or that the colleagues and me. That one of the things is kind of always the European state of the climate report that we had yesterday. WMO that on presenting, so that there's a state of the climate also kind of globally, that this is a special report only focusing on Europe, and with a dedicated analysis on what had happened in the last year. It's always kind of coming out in springtime. And in the last one that it's now on from last year. 2024 was one of the hottest years that on record. So and here you see kind of the analysis behind that anomalies in the soil moisture, especially here in this area. It's very dry in the soil. Then we had a very severe heat waves in southern Europe, as an extreme as well, and or also kind of the burnt areas in the Mediterranean area. So that's all the analysis that you're getting there, which is probably feeding then into your decisions concerning the agriculture. Dedicated data, which is based on ERA 5, is an indicator set. That is the Agri ERA 5, that especially kind of done for agriculture. And then we had that in the discussions always kind of it's in co-creation with the stakeholders. So there's a survey behind and a feedback so that the variables that have been analyzed is based on the need of the stakeholders. Something similar to ERA 5 is the ERA land, and that it's produced differently, and that there is models behind other models behind, and you are getting then a different set of indices and that indicators, and that, but most are probably also very interesting or for your decisions in agriculture or related fields. And then what I just plotted out is the skin reservoir here in the region, and that from the 20th September. So it was just recently. So it's it was the latest data that I could retrieve in the moment when I was preparing this presentation. That I had to do that a bit in advance. And then so what we do for kind of the past, it's also been possible to retrieve for the future. So these are the projections for climate indices, especially for the agriculture that dedicated here. So here, this is the effective degree days, which is one of the very common indicator which has been used, and another product to get. And then we have been talking about which is very interesting in agriculture fields is a seasonal forecast. Always very tricky, especially when we're talking about uncertainties and that uncertainty communication. So there's a very, very big challenge also kind of to derive reliable products, and there is one of the examples that is the drought forecast that ECMWF has been produced. And yeah, well, but that is something which is there's a high request behind, because knowing what's coming up in the next season is directly affecting what you would like to plant or which kind of seeds you're going for. I have been showing that yesterday as well. So this is kind of the technical infrastructure behind, and here plenty of standards are taking into account that how the architecture is being built. It's very modular and it's following FAIR principles, and that we have a FAIR score check of 88% for the moment. We would like to increase that to 100% by the end of the year. Is a technical infrastructure to deliver information, and that kind of collecting the raw data and then refining that, which is also kind of one of the core things that climate service should do, and that bringing good high or information on demand for the stakeholders. And then on top of these backend infrastructures, a couple of different platforms has been established on top of it. So it's the climate change service, but it's more than that. It's also the atmospheric monitoring service, and ECMWF is also supporting, together with GRC and the European Environmental Agency, the emergency management service. Right. So, and then so other applications can be built on top. So we will see that later on, where the links are in between. So this is one of the things. For example, so this is the from the emergency management service, so the European flood awareness system. Where kind of a lot of different data sets are getting into then hydrological models, and which has been producing data in different time scales, and for the forecasting, or then also kind of seasonal forecast or climate predictions, or climate projections. And here is kind of the different kind of lead times or the update frequencies. So from nowcasting systems up to then monthly, or then later on then the yearly or the projections for the future. So here also kind of what is meteorological service, what is climate service, or just in the session before we had been talking about climate services, and then we're indicating kind of emergency or early warning systems, so which is more than dedicated to weather services. So if we are talking about the definition of the services, then in the end it is seamless. So where to start, where to end, that we probably need to think that in a seamless way. Then that's a bit of a kind of introduction to the session itself. So we are it's called the Climate Service for Agriculture, but the discussion that we are going to have is probably more about droughts, about drought indicators, and that from the European Emergency Management Service, we have also the Drought Observatory, that it is maintained by GRC. And then we will have that later on, also how that looks like for this region here in another presentation. And yesterday there was a question about the drought indicators and the definition about that. So here is drought indicators for era 5 and different climatology also up to today. So it's a monitoring, and you see in the description, this is it is hosted in the cross data store. So it's kind of we have the climate data store, but then there's also kind of an experimental data store where we are storing the data which is probably still under discussion. So and then I have the environmental research letters, and that how good is my drought index. So that is all kind of still floating, and that to get the right definition, and we can continue the discussion here, and probably we are coming up with an answer. And that is another point, which is always very important for kind of services, and that you need to have a big effort on education and training. So that is kind of also what C3S is doing, or the Copernicus services in general. So you find a quite good or constantly enhanced set of material, and that in written documents, but then also this Jupyter notebook, so where you can really kind of see how the APIs are working, how you can access and download data, or also a proper description on how to make the data analyzer. So if you're running into kind of difficulties, then you will probably find a good answer than there. And I think on that sense, I'm already on my end. So this for inspiration, and we can start the discussion and having an interactive session here. So which kind of question is also that how to improve the service. That's always important, and seeing how to do that. And the indicator standardization is super interesting, and which indicators do we actually need, and then how to make the communication line with that local to national, and then later on national to international or continental levels. What are the different steps on that? And with that, I thank you for your attention.
All right, thanks, Niels. Please stay here because we can take. We will come back to the 3 questions at the end of this session, but maybe there is a question in the room for. We can just we are like 10 minutes past already the schedule, but if we can take one question. Yeah, all the way in the back.
Go.
Yes, I have one question. Hourly data for RF5 land actually are, when you have to retrieve the data for some larger area and for longer period of time, you can retrieve daily, hourly or monthly means. So it's really a problem. Because it's almost, you have to wait a long time, or sometimes it's impossible to retrieve that much data because they're on hourly level. And mainly the indices which we calculate for climate analysis are based on daily data. So either we choose, hourly data, which is much more time demanding and sometimes impossible, or we have to use monthly data, which are not that useful. So is it possible in the future? Yeah, I'm from Faculty of Agriculture, University of Belgrade. Okay. And these are my colleagues for HIDEMET service, so it is our joint issue. So is it possible in the future somehow to change and to enable availability of the basic variables, which are on hourly level, also to make them available on daily level? It would save much time, on data retrieval.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. And yes, we do have that kind of on our radar, so that it's the flexibility of aggregating the data is an issue, is a barrier, and that we're working on that, and so to enhance it, which has already been done. So you can, for example, you can make a regional subset, so that you're just cutting down so the region that you actually need, and then the data are available in the aggregation, so in different time aggregations, so monthly or daily or hourly, and then depending on that what you want, that you can choose the right things. And if you need or if you identify a specific gap, then you can also kind of address that into the user requirements or into the support system, and then we're trying to fix that and fill the gap when depending on resources on our side.
Hopefully somebody noted down a user requirement here.
Or
you will.
I know that there are people in the room writing down user requirements, so speak them out.
Okay, thanks, Niels. I got one question from the online participants, and they ask Niels, you work with Jupyter notebooks, but which farmer is using Jupyter notebooks? So who is your audience for this?
Right. So I think we are kind of probably deep diving into that as well. And so the ECMWF or the Copernicus services are kind of serving it on a higher level. And then the regions and the national Met services or the regions that are then refining and setting up the climate services then for the users itself. So kind of we're providing the Jupyter notebooks, and then in the kind of in the pipeline of the information production, that the local consultations or climate services are then kind of bringing it into a form that the farmer can use it.
Thank you, Niels. Let's move to the next speaker, which is Brian O'Connor. He is working at UNCCD, the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. That's not your laptop, sorry, that's mine. Please tell us more about your work then.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm working at the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification as a program officer. I work on geospatial information and national reporting. I'll tell you a little bit about the convention first. It was founded in 1994, along with the other two Rio conventions, the Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, which I guess everybody knows about, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, the CBD. So the three conventions were all founded at the same time. The mandate of the UNCCD is solely on land and the sustainable use of land for future generations. There are 197 parties to the convention, including the European Union. So while I'm on the topic of Rio conventions, I would like to highlight that our new executive secretary has actually just launched a new platform. You can access it at the URL here, rioconventions.org. And this is the first effort to really synergistically solve the one planetary crisis by joining up the efforts of the three Rio conventions. So this is a really interesting initiative and maybe of interest to this group. On the website, there are a number of use cases and areas of joint coordinated efforts. But I think one that will be particular interest to this group is nature positive food production, recognizing the importance of sustainable agriculture and agri-food systems for climate change adaptation, land degradation, and nature protection. So back to the UNCCD, the convention consists of 5 strategic objectives. The first strategic objective is on land degradation neutrality by 2030. And the third strategic objective is drought and mitigating the impacts of drought. So I think those two ones are probably most relevant for all of you here. The countries agreed on 17 indicators to measure progress towards these strategic objectives, and they're listed here on this slide. I've put in bold the ones under those strategic objectives I just mentioned, but I'll just to highlight that those indicators are dependent on Earth observation and geospatial information. So that brings us into the realm of geospatial and remote sensing. But I'd like to highlight SDG indicator 15.3.1 in particular there, and the proportion of degraded land, which is of course relevant to the agriculture community. We're the custodian agency for this indicator, meaning that we collect the country data and report it to the UN Statistics Division. It's a very simple overview slide of the indicator. It very much takes a essential variables type approach, and there's a minimum set of essential variables which countries are expected to report on, and that is land cover, land productivity, and soil organic carbon. And put simply, any significant reduction or negative change in one of these sub-indicators is considered to comprise land degradation. So it's quite a conservative methodology, and the result is a binary assessment where any land unit is considered to be degraded or not degraded. So it doesn't look at severity of degradation, just is it or is it not. So it is a universally applicable methodology across all 196 countries that are signed up to the convention. So moving on to drought, then we have 3 indicators under drought that are following the IPCC risk assessment framework of hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. The first indicator is trends on the proportion of land under drought over the total land area. And we've worked with the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology to publish a methodology for countries to report on this indicator, which you can find on our website under the Good Practice Guidance document on Strategic Objective 3. So the indicator is based on the Standardized Precipitation Index, which is then grouped into those drought severity classes. The second indicator is on the trends in the proportion of the population exposed to drought. So essentially this indicator takes the results from the first indicator and intersects it with human population data. And countries report on 3 metrics here. That is the proportion of the total population exposed to drought, the proportion of the female population, and the male population. So it's very important to emphasize that this is a sex disaggregated indicator that's looking at the differential exposure to gender. The third indicator is on vulnerability. And arguably, this is probably the most difficult one for countries because it's the most data intensive indicator. It consists of 3 components, a social, economic, and infrastructural component. And under each component, countries should be reporting different factors that affect vulnerability. And in principle, they should have a data set for every factor. So actually just calculating this indicator just for one time point is quite an intense exercise. And countries are expected to report on change in vulnerability. So it's a really challenging one. We are aware of one data set that the Joint Research Centre have published back in 2018 on drought vulnerability, which represents a snapshot in time. It came from 2018, but unfortunately the data set has not been updated. So tracking global change in vulnerability is very challenging. And unless a country has the capacity to do this at national level, they don't report on this indicator. Just to give you an insight of how we do the reporting process, we use something called a default data methodology or concept, let's say. And what we do at the Secretariat is just before every reporting process starts, we work with our partners to collate a number of global free and open data sets on these indicators that I just presented. We essentially process them on behalf of countries according to UN approved map boundary layer. And then we produce 196 individual national data sets. And we preload these data sets in the reporting platform called PRAISE4, which I will go into next. And countries essentially log in and they see the data already there and they say, okay, this is okay, we can submit this, we have nothing better. Or they can say, actually, we have much better national data, and they will replace it with their own. But we have found this methodology to be really successful, and it's significantly increased the reporting rate on indicators because access to data is often a challenge for countries. So the reporting platform is a geospatial reporting platform. Countries enter the information and data on reporting forms, obviously, but there is also a map section where they can submit added value to their national reports by submitting raster layers, vector information to support how the indicators are calculated. So this is how we do the reporting in our reporting platform. Since we're talking about standards, I wanted to highlight that in the last conference of the parties, in our COP last year in Riyadh, the countries made a decision on encouraging the UNCCD to continue working on standards for data sharing and interoperability. And this is really significant because it gives us the mandate to work on standards. And it might seem something self-evident to this group, but actually for all 196 countries of the world to agree that the UN should be working on standards is a really important decision. So the vision of the UNCCD is very much for a wider ecosystem of tools around the PRAISE reporting platform that is built on standards and interoperability. We are working with the GeoLDN flagship initiative, so that's the Group on Earth Observations, to help us work with Open Geospatial Consortium and other organizations to certify standards for this workflow, for the file formats we use. And this is really cutting edge, I would say, for the UN conventions. We don't do this for no reason, of course. We ultimately want to achieve global impact with the data we collect from countries. And we had a nice Nature editorial publication that used our data and told the world about the seriousness of the land degradation crisis. We also have our own in-house publication on the land story, which collects case studies of how countries report on land degradation and drought, which you might find interesting as well. At the Secretariat, we're a small group and we certainly don't have in-house data processing capacity. So we do everything through partnerships. And again, I refer to the GEO, the Group on Earth Observations, Land Degradation Neutrality Initiative, who have assembled a group of really great data providers and experts who help us deliver our mandate. They're all listed on the slide, but if you would like to be a part of the GEO LDN network, please ask me after. I'm more than happy to give you information about it to help us build that ecosystem of data and tools to enable countries to report on these indicators in the future. Just wanted to mention one thing about GeoLDN, which is really interesting to this group as well, I think, and that's the Global and Regional Dialogue Fora. This essentially invites countries to engage in a dialogue with the Group on Earth Observations community and what their user requirements are for reporting and monitoring land degradation and drought. 26 countries have participated in the fora so far. Storytelling is a really big part of these dialogues, and it was in one of our breakout sessions earlier. I was gladdened to hear that storytelling is really the top user requirement actually when it comes to services before we even think about data. So thank you very much. I would just like to point to our data dashboard. If you would like to know more about the data we collect, please go online and have a look and give us some feedback. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, looks like great service that you're delivering already. Is there a question in the room for Brian? No? Ah, yes, Niels.
Yeah. Well, just kind of talking about climate services. That I have probably two questions. That. Okay, don't steal my time. Okay. Would you kind of the data reporting system? That would you consider that as a climate service? And first question. The second one is what could Climateurope2, the project, and all the kind of the discussion about standardization learn from your experience?
It's definitely a part of a service. It's not the end point of the service. I would point to our data dashboard actually as the service, because what we've tried to do is design a system where the countries go into a private workspace where nobody sees the data being entered. They can enter their information, and then we can aggregate it and present it back to the general public through this dashboard. So the service is done through the self-service that we provide through the dashboard to access the data, but the reporting platform is a part. And the second part of the question was how this would be use case for climate standards. Did I hear correctly? I'll talk about it after. I have to think about that one. And I feel Judith is trying to get rid of me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm trying to be strict on time because I consider time a very precious resource that should be shared fairly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Our next speaker, we are very glad to have Andrea Susnik here. She is from Slovenian Environment Agency. So please go ahead.
Share my screen. So, dear colleagues, dear distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so as Judith already mentioned, I'm coming from Slovenian Environment Agency, more precisely from Meteorological Service. But my mission today is to really talk a little bit about Drought Management Center for Southeastern Europe. So I will talk a little bit about the service that we are contributing to the region, and of course with some problems that we are tackling during our work. So I structure my very quick presentation in 5 parts. The last part will be dedicated to the discussion, which will follow with what already Judith mentioned. But first of all, I would like to tackle the problem. So the increasing problem of drought in the region. Then after, what kind of character drought has in the region recently, but not only in the region, but also on European level. And a few words about the regional drought monitoring and user requirements, as I could name this part. And as I said, at the end, the discussion will follow. But I would like to say that we are working very closely with World Meteorological Organization. So I hope that our work is also dedicated to the recently launched project, Early Warnings for All, And I hope that at the end of this campaign, all the countries in the region, they will be equipped with some of national drought monitoring. So to tackle the problem, so I think that it's not necessary to explain that the problem is really worsening in the region. Niels already mentioned the European Drought Observatory and the monitoring that we have in place on European level. So this is on the left-hand side of the slide, you have European Drought Observatory, drought development in this year. So you can see that it's really not easy phenomena to detect or monitor or forecast. Because it's really changing over time and over scale. On the left-hand side, you can see June, July, and August development of drought. You have some links if you would like to go into more details. But on the right-hand side, there is the ICPDR. This is International Commission for the Protection of Danube River. The shape of the drought development in last year, some from 2003 on. And of course, you can see that this drought is really moving here and there. So it's really difficult to say when it starts and how it is developing. But what I would like to tackle is the impact. Of course, when we are talking with our users, you have to know what the impact will be on the society. Due to the fact that we are sitting in an agriculture sector, of course, in the past, the region was mainly affected due to drought in the agriculture sector. But what we are observing nowadays, not only on regional level or on local level, also on global level, that now this is a multi-sectoral problem. On the chart here, this is also from the report from ICPDR, you can see the share of the pie dedicated to specific sectors. So now the dialogue should appear among different sectors. And this is quite challenging situation because it's not agriculture, because we speak, let us say, common language, but then you have to speak with hydropower, with energy sector, then with tourism, with water supply and so on. So it's quite complicated discussion and also complicated when we are talking about the data. So, but here are some photos from the recent development on the left-hand side. For example, in the region, we had the problem with river transport and a lot of goods and also agriculture products. They are traveling by boats on Danube River. Unfortunately, due to drought, a lot of this transport was really a little bit stopped due to some places in Danube River that they were completely dry over the season. And of course, not to mention the drinking waters, and Niels mentioned yesterday the lake in Switzerland, but also some lakes in our region, they are also shrinking. And then after, of course, this is one chart I brought from one project, European project. Of course, what is our concern and our, let us say, stakeholders, they would like to know more information about what the future will bring. And if you look to the pie on the right-hand side, you can see the agriculture sector it will be affected due to drought very severely in the region of Mediterranean, let us say, also including our region as well, according to all these three different increase of the temperature. And this multi-sectoral communication, it will be more necessary even in the future. Okay, but now to go to the point. So I'm coming from Warsaw, and in 2006, a drought management center for Southeastern Europe was established in Slovenia. It was bottom-up approach. So for more information, please click on our webpage or on the QR code that you have here below. So the founding agencies, they are UNCCD and WMO. So we are cooperating with these two UN agencies quite closely through many projects. But on the right-hand side, you can see also the coverage of the region, and 14 countries, they are cooperating in this field from 2006 on. At the beginning, it is initiative. It's not an office, it's not a company, but it's just, let us say, communication and networking, sharing experiences, and so on. So you can see the coverage of the countries in the region on the right-hand side of the slide. But what I would like to stress here, that mainly the focal points, they are seated in the frame of national meteorological and hydrological services in the region. So, and let us say, we are coordinating body at ARSO. So just a few information about the work we are performing. And I would like to take this opportunity and to invite you to visit us at the marketplace for some more information to be delivered. And we have also 3 recent projects that they are running in the field of DMC. One is related to the forest fire and heat waves. The other one is more in Alpine region. And the second one is in the Central and Eastern European countries. So the mission is, of course, we would like to develop applications or any kind of tools that would be useful for the region. But at the end of the day, we would like to improve the preparedness of the regions to reduce the drought impacts. But please join the group and check for more information at our webpage. But what I would like to stress, because Brian was talking about UN conventions, and we are cooperating very much with World Meteorological Organization. And on the right-hand side, you can see also the program, which is in hands of World Meteorological Organization. It's called Integrated Drought Management Program. If you would have time, please visit this webpage. There is a lot of information about the drought indicator, the drought, different tools and applications. Also, we tackled a little bit through the Niels presentation and also Brian's, of course. WMO is, let us say, common platform to discuss what kind of drought indicator to use for different purposes. Due to the fact that we are now in agriculture sector, of course, there is a handbook of drought indicators and indices which was published by WMO, and there are quite many. Therefore, the standardization, harmonization is a challenge for all of us. And I think that the discussion will bring also this topic on the table. But of course, the main issue is that we would like to know also for farmers where the drought sits, the location, the duration, the timing, and of course, severity. And the forecast is also a very challenging topic for all of us. Also, Niels showed the monitoring part. So what I see quite a problematic approach is how to really put together all these puzzles from different indicators, from European level to global level that Brian presented, to the regional level and also to the national level, how to combine this information together and not to confuse our stakeholders. So I think that it's important to know, to find the same glasses, to find the same language, how to convey this message to the users. So for the region, we recently established Drought Watch. This is the tool for near real-time drought monitoring, and just please click there and check what is available there. We are using data from remote sensing, from EUMETSAT layers, and also from some models which are available there. And then, obviously there is one slide. Yeah, but for climatic analysis, we are also using some products to shape the regional drought bulletins. So please visit our webpage. But just to let you know the structure of the bulletin, so we have a regional weather conditions described for the previous months. Now it's available for July. I think that it's still not available for August. You can see that also this region was quite warm and dry this summer. And we are using ECMWF products and standard drought indicators like SP, SPI, and EDI indicator. And also we are detecting what is the behavior of the vegetation. For this purpose, we are using EUMETSAT layers for the detection, and there are also some regional data available and some plots we have in the region where we are really verifying the behavior of the indicator. This is fraction vegetation cover, fraction vegetation cover index, which is in some places in the region. So I will not go into details. Please visit webpage, and also the presentation will be available then after. And finally, what is important to say here, and also we are communicating a lot with colleagues at European Drought Observatory at GRC, it's about the impact recording. For any kind of monitoring tools or application, we have to have impact data set in place. And in the frame of DMC, we are collecting drought data from the newspapers, from the bulletin, and also in the interaction in the stakeholders in the region. And you can find also in our DMC bulletins also information what kind of impact was in particular month in the region or in the country. with the, as I said, with the communication with some colleagues from the region. And just to trigger let us say, to check this our new developing tool, which is regional tool, the starting point was through the European project Dry Danube, which started in 2017 and then continued in 2019. Please check on the web. As I said, these layers are stored there, and there are different sources of information, from satellite data to models, soil clim data is inside, EOMETSAT layers are there, and you have also from ECMWF, we have 9-day forecast available there. Of course, what we need at the moment, and we would like to encourage colleagues in the region to verify this information with the national data, because with regional tool, we will not reach the field of our farmer. We should be clear about what is global dimension of the drought development and what is regional and local. These are completely different stories. And food for discussion will stay at the end, but just from my side, what I would like to stress here that we have different dimension of the drought monitoring, and I think that we have to harmonize these approaches. We have to have this impact-based forecast, and of course, as I already said, impact collection is needed. And I have some questions for Niels at the end, but I will wait till the end of our discussion. So thank you. This is all from my side.
Thanks, Andrea. All right, so is there a question for Andrea?
So please visit us at the marketplace.
That's also possible. You can ask her like, oh, there is a question in the back from, yeah. Sorry.
For monitoring services, how do you get the data for the region for soil-related data, because of the scarce measurements and probably not available?
Yeah, good point. No data so far included in the monitoring. We are aware that this is a crucial component. We tried to do some testing through some projects, but it's really regionally very diverse. But we would like to use the European soil map for some countries, but this is also in our plan to include inside, because also in Slovenian drought monitoring, soil is not included in the drought monitoring. We have a national drought monitoring in place, but we are aware that this is for sure weak point of the agriculture drought monitoring for sure, or any kind of modeling. You have to have this soil data inside, but so far there is no soil data inside.
Okay, another user requirement, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, good. Now we have our next speaker is Vukasin Pejovic, and he is he has a private company that is providing climate services to viticulture. So please go ahead.
Just figure. Okay, this is quite easy. That's good. So hi everyone. Vukasin is the name, and I'm probably going to try to talk a bit about the importance of local and micro data within the context of climate services, because most of the topics we've heard today are actually at a higher level. And the background of it is that we as a Serbian company, we are dealing with farmers daily, primarily Balkans regions, but also expanding globally. And we have this, let's say, unique point of view where we actually feel, or we got translated the pains that farmers are feeling. Our data, and part of the data that I'll be presented today, is built on our own sensors within vineyards at heights of the canopy, so not 2 meters, but where the plants actually grow. And most of the story is focused on Serbia today, because that's where we have most data and we get most of the ground truth data confirmed by farmers. So we're going to be looking at 4 different locations across Serbia where most of wine is actually grown. Fruška Gora, northern part, a small, well, tiny mountain, then Kosmaj just outside of Belgrade, then 2 traditional wine growing regions, Negotin on eastern part of Serbia, and Župa, like in mountainous central western part of Serbia. And the first thing we're going to be looking is like yearly averages, and this has been pulled from our national data with 2025, which we've used our own data. Obviously, 2025 numbers are a bit off because we are missing number of months to complete the averages, but you can see some trends here on the data. And first of all, if you look at the temperatures, there's an obvious trend in the last 5 years of slight rise of temperatures. These are averages. And it's actually quite frightening because if kind of normal eye can spot it, then, and these are averages, which means like quite a lot of data is summed up there and then averaged. It means it's actually obvious to everybody now. On the other side, if you look at the rainfall data, averages are kind of there. Like we get, let's say 600 to 800 liters of rain, which we used to get throughout history. There are extreme years on both sides, besides maybe last 2 years, which have a bit of an issue in specific regions. Yet again, all of this is followed by news we've seen not only in Serbia, but in all European countries. Like there's lots of hail, lots of storms, and also droughts, extreme temperatures, extreme lack of water. These are like just some news I've pulled out from the net in the last 3 years, right? Why is this the case? Well, we're going to look at the specific data for specific locations. So first of all, in 2023, there was no drought formally in Serbia, maybe on just a tiny part in Banat. You know, this was like a regular thing. So you would get a monthly rainfall in a day. And that would kind of come back and forth continuously. That's like micro data. So you could have like a location that is half a kilometer or a kilometer away that gets like just third of this, and then one location gets a monthly rainfall. So that's quite extreme. In 2024, out of, you know, this is like a summary chart for the 4 locations. We had intervals of 36 to 57 days without rain or neglectable rainfall. Neglectable below 5 millimeters per square meter in an instance. And this is primarily during summer where plant demands most of water to compensate for transpiration. So literally no water. So unless you have soil that can accumulate this or you have irrigation system, you cannot really survive this. It's a similar case in 2025, where we've actually measured slightly shorter intervals without rain, so 31 to 40 days. It's still quite intensive. But to really understand what separates these stories apart, we need to look at a kind of micro level for the data. And these are some things we are working on this year, and it's going to be available in our tools. This is like a visualized micro level stress indicator for the vines. There's a bit too much graphs there, but I'm kind of trying to give you a big picture, which is if you look at like 2023, 2024, 2025, you can see that like 2023 has least colored days, which are like days with extreme night temperatures and extreme day temperatures, whereas 2024 is obviously the most stressful. 2025 is not short following after that. So we've summed up that in the table, and you can obviously see that if you understand micro data, you can understand what plants are sensing. This can then further be used. So this is location number 1, most north, and I think it actually got least amount of stress. Whereas if we move through Serbia, this central location just outside of Belgrade is still not doing that bad. Whereas these 2 southern locations are actually doing quite, experiencing quite extreme, literally a month of stress for the plants. So this is what micro data hides if you look at world from that micro level. So in summary, we've confirmed the data and the analysis with the farmers, and essentially 2023 with lots of rain carried lots of disease risk, but the quality and the yield was quite okay. 2024 generally was an easy year from the disease point of view, but with a dramatic decrease in yield, whereas 2025, although quite dry, turned out to be a decent year. This gives you a correlation in between the data we've measured and the results that farmers have actually experienced. Most of this microdata is quite actually difficult to acquire continuously. But even if you have it or you don't, with mesoclimate data, you can actually learn a lot. So we are kind of really working on providing insights before planting, providing practice insights during the season so that adaptability can happen, because there are things you can do even if the vines are planted, and also kind of very practical things like the moment of irrigation and kind of defining the longer term strategies for resilience. Most of this is actually neglected because it's difficult to gather. But as I said, we are working hard on that, and so far we gather about 750 data points, so the system is growing. So that's it for me. Obviously, you can kind of follow us on some of the social networks because we publish some of this data there, and I'll be more than happy to continue conversations here or on the LinkedIn after. So hopefully I'm good on time.
Yes, very good. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so questions for Fukashi? No, Niels? Yeah, you have a question?
He got prepared. We were practicing, so that's...
Before it's silent here, I'm addressing a question. So how do you see the connection between this kind of the climate services on micro level and climate services from a European level or a national, regional level?
I think that's one of these topics that need to be opened a bit more, because like if we specify the, let's say, continuum of data that is needed, there is a way to make these data available and interoperable. And I think it's a pity not to actually consider that level.
All right, thanks a lot. Oh, one more question? Okay, let's take it.
I was just going to ask you about indirect impacts like pests, and like surely climate is stressing the plants and introducing pests, and also you know more about this than me, but how is that covered in the climate services, that kind of information that's not directly climate parameter, but it is indirectly?
Yeah, well, the way I understand this, there is no pest development without appropriate climate. So, you know, if the climate is not at the level they need it to be, they won't evolve. So if you understand the climate data, you can actually understand their environment, therefore what their life cycle is. And that's what exactly we are doing. Like we are actually building a layer which kind of interprets the climate data for the vines based on variety, but also for the fungi and for the pests around the whole ecosystem.
Okay, thanks. So now I'm going to give the word to myself. So yeah, I'm trying to be really quick with my presentation. So I'm just giving you a few examples from what we are doing in Wageningen. Okay, I can. Let's see. That way. So actually, climate services for agriculture have been there for a very, very long time. And here you see this is an indicator that is maybe 75 years old. It's about plant hardiness. And in a way, plants are slow responders to the climate. So you can already see the climate from the plants that are growing somewhere. So climate is very, very relevant for plants and for agriculture. This is a slide about the impact of climate change on crop yields. It's actually very alarming what IPCC is saying about this. So that's why climate services are becoming more and more relevant. And the problem is, of course, we have already seen it in the previous presentations, that you are talking about farm level to global level and everything in between. So that's a lot of climate services that you then need to think about. And then another thing is that the direct impact on crops doesn't always translate to the financial impacts. I think Fukasin will confirm that if you have a good yield, then maybe still you can have a bad year, because then everybody has a good yield. Yeah. Two examples from Wageningen, Mars and Save for All. So Mars is a crop yield forecasting service that has been, I think it's up and running for decades now, and it's at a large scale. So it provides information to inform agricultural policy, but also it's very relevant for the industry, because they can kind of foresee what crops are going to be really good, what crops are going to be difficult, and so they can act on the market before, let's say before other people know. It has a different there are different elements in that system. So it's meteo data, but also crop growth models are inside it, and statistics about, economic statistics about what you are going to earn with these crops. And this is all, modeled, and the Mars gives outputs. And that looks like, well, there is a bulletin that, but there are also, tailor-made products for different users. And that's at the European level, but it's also for food security, and there is agricultural market information available. This is the Save for All objective is actually a European project that is running now. So this is, while Mars is already established for a long time, this is a new climate service, and it's aiming for farmers in Africa. And there are different tools at different levels. So there is this Climate Impact Atlas that's more informing, let's say, the national government, while there is also an app for farmers. And this app for farmers is providing information to farmers based on data, but also based on interaction with the farmers themselves. So in this picture, you see in the middle the product that is based on farmer knowledge, because farmers in those countries have their own ways of predicting the weather based on, let's say, animal behavior or plant behavior, or whatever it is they use. And sometimes this local knowledge is more accurate than let's say the remote sensing, because it responds to different factors in the environment. So, and then on the right side you see the output that comes from science. So the farmers can click on both parts of this app and compare what their fellow farmers have said about the weather and what the climate data says about the weather. And then they can base their decisions on that information. It also provides information at the larger scale. That's about food supply, and it's based on the LPJ model. And that's especially for governments. So there you have the information, predicting the food resources for governments. And that is also provided in the shape of a map. So there you can see, how is it looking? So I think that's my presentation. Yep. So are there any questions for me then? Yeah, Dragana?
Just to ask, I know it's difficult to integrate the local knowledge and indigenous knowledge with new technologies, but if you have some good experience or just anecdote that you want to share for us of how you were building on the local way of predicting climate and or weather.
I think that in this, then I can put you into contact with my colleagues who are, but Safe for All is a project that's running now, and this is exactly the experiment that they are doing. So now these two options in the app, I don't think they are connected, so they are provided as separate options. So this app works in a way that every farmer who has this app can contribute to this local knowledge information. And because there will be maybe hundreds or thousands of those farmers, and that's the result in that side of the app. And then the science is on the other side, but I think that it will be a result of using these two apps for a while to integrate that knowledge. All right, thanks. Okay, then more question? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, another question. Thank you. Well, for climate data, it's quite common to use ensemble of models or ensemble of projections. I think that for agricultural projections, we are not there using examples of crop models in a regular way. It's not so common because it's very difficult to calibrate and validate many, and the users have difficult access to projections for different crop models. So any idea to overcome this situation? Because I think there is a huge gap in between agricultural projections and the climate projections in this regard.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but maybe Niels, maybe you do. Well, at least the examples that I showed are more in the medium term, right? They are not on the long-term projections, but...
No, it's a pretty good question. Yeah, this is a pretty good question with that. But well, the approach would be then that to take multiple crop models into account and then running them on the different models, but that is very expensive on terms of computation, and that's why it is not realized. So it's a technical challenge.
All right, but I guess that in any case, it's clear that farmers need to become more resilient. So either way, yeah. Okay, let's go back to the slides from Niels with the 3 questions. So his last slide had 3 questions on it. So yeah, who has anything to comment on any of these 3 questions? Maybe the speakers can.
Some years ago, and I don't know how it is today, but UNCCD pursued the idea to distinguish between aridity and drought. Because of climate change, aridity is changing, level of aridity of the regions, and it's impacted by both change in precipitation and increase of temperature. So the idea is to teach policymakers the difference between the drought as an extreme event and the change in aridity level, because aridity is climate characteristic and this is just extreme event. To actually highlight that changing in aridity, increasing aridity level of countries is something that will not pass. And usually policymakers think of drought, okay, it's a severe problem. Now they're recognizing it, but they think, okay, it's an event that will pass, and then we will have some good yields or something like that. So my question for UNCCD representative is it still on to distinguish between changing in aridity and defining drought, or we are just stuck with, okay, drought is increasing in its severity and frequency, and it's not even any more extreme event, it's every year event. So what's up with that?
Thanks. Yeah, I think I'm going to Brian for this question. Maybe we should sit on the stage with the speakers, but I think that I want to encourage people in the room, if you have an answer to this, please also wave at me. So, Brian?
Thank you for the question. I suppose I have to caveat my answer. I've been at the Secretariat only a few years, and it sounds like the history you have is a lot longer than my history at the UNCCD, so I can only speak on behalf of my experience in the reporting for the last few years. But the indicators were only agreed in the COP15, which was 2023, I think. So there are a new set of indicators, and the definition is strictly precipitation-based, so it's a WMO-based meteorological definition of drought, and that's the definition the countries have agreed to. So aridity has never been a part of the language that I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years in our documentation. So that's all I could say. And to your last point about it just being an episodic event and not a long-term impact, that's true. And the point of the 3 levels of indicators I described, the hazard, exposure, vulnerabilities, you're kind of saying, yeah, you can have droughts jumping up and down every few years. And yes, you can have a population exposed who are sitting on the land that's under the drought, but you're not vulnerable because you might have an economy which is capable of irrigation or other mitigation measures. So the beauty of that 3-level system is you're able to say, it's not just about the hazard, which is fluctuating all the time. And vice versa, you can have a country that's not really having that bad a drought situation, but is extremely vulnerable because they're so poor or they have other challenges. So that's how we've kind of, at least in the reporting framework, tried to deal with that problem of it being an episodic event, but at the same time, the impacts are very variable. I'm happy to chat to you after as well. So thank you very much for the question.
I'm taking back this one because I think you switched to the other microphones, right? So, Andrea, you want also to answer, but I think it's working now.
Shall I press? Oh, yeah. Now you can hear me. Okay, just to add something what Brian said, I'm working also as UNCCD focal point. So let me explain my own experience, because we figured out that, for example, SPI on 12 month is not representing the drought that we are exposed in Slovenia. So with our practical, technical experience was that we wanted to integrate inside the map of SPI, shorter period SPI, because this is relevant for our summer drought, let us say, which is, by the way, causing a lot of problems to our economy. So, but it was a little bit technical issue. I think that with this new reporting process, I hope that we will avoid these kind of things. But coming back to your question about the aridity, of course, I think when we are looking to the global perspective about drought and desertification, of course, aridity index will bring on the globe, the area where we are affected due to aridity, but this is really climate-related issue. But for drought development, I think there's these indicators. I'm not complaining, but I'm just explaining the reality that we will reconsider the SPI 12 as being a global indicator for drought detection. So I'm a little bit in between when we are talking about national perspective, integration into the price, and looking from the UN global perspective on the problem. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Andrea. I think that was an answer to the first point, to the first point of these questions. So what is not served yet? Any other questions from the room or comments? Yeah, Annemarie? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. I have a question for Niels. When I talk to stakeholders in the agricultural sector, maybe farmers or input suppliers or financial institutions, what they are in need of is knowing where to invest in to increase climate resilience. So instead of investing in knowledge about the impact or projections, they would like to know about the potential effect of solutions, adaptation measures or adaptation strategies or mitigation strategies. So I was wondering if ECMWF is also thinking about extending their services towards the adaptation, the solution part.
Yeah, it is doing that. So ECMWF is, for example, also kind of having a consultation for the European Investment Bank. And then in that context, there is a set of climate hazard indicators that is being calculated. It's currently ongoing. So the data are not published or is not finished yet. But it is exactly with the idea behind that where it is the climate changing in which direction, and kind of where it is worth to invest, and in which direction.
And where is better to invest?
Yeah. And there is another event from Climateurope2 that taking place in London that in a couple of weeks or in a couple of days actually in London, addressing this issue as well. So focusing on the investment.
How long will it take before we get some of the services on the potential effect of climate adaptation?
Annemarie asked when will this type of indicators be available on the effect of adaptation measures?
Well, you have that. It is already there. We have kind of the entire IPCC reports that are pointing it out, and that where the climate change is taking place, and that the impact has been calculated, and that in different ways.
Like, for example, there are green roofs, and how effective are the green roofs?
Oh, okay.
Or new varieties, how effective are they?
New plant varieties. Yeah.
Or mulching, or
Annemarie, wait for
agroforestry.
Okay, yeah. Yeah?
You can answer that?
No, I cannot. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's say this is
I don't think those are high-level requirements. Actually, you're looking for microbe data there. So, I think mulching you can only evaluate if you kind of have an environment that allows you to micro-measure what the differences are. So we have to go lower.
All right. Let's try to move to the next. Okay, there's a question in the back.
Yes, we have here.
Okay, here.
Short.
Short? Yeah. Wow.
With experience.
Sorry. I want to be short, but you tease me too much. Yesterday was Niels, and thank you for the explanation. Now I understand what you told yesterday. And guys, you have a perfect pilot. It's my region, Puglia. We don't have water for 6 months, but we have the best quality of wines. That's because we have grapes that are adapt to the land. And Niels, I'm a statistician. That's why I was in deep with data. And we just pass by the data because we don't have at all water. We don't have river, we don't have anything. And so to answer also to what she said, we built a forest. For these already more than, no, it was 1950 for, first of all, for hydrological, because we had an emergency in that area, but also because of the climate change. And I'm afraid that we can talk about data and so on, but we already know, and we are quite sure, that the next world war will be for the water, because the cycle of water, it's finished. There's no more cycle of water. Now my question is a different question, but it's something that I won't tease you, because we have a lot of projects funded a lot from the European Commission. Each project has its platform, but they don't speak each other. So what we are asking as regional authority to the European Commission is for the next program, at least for the same axis, the platform should be one, all the projects that will put data. So my question is to you is how we can combine your data?
Well, yeah, but Climate Europe is, I don't think we are collecting data, but we are trying to connect different European projects in the field, though. So we have a list of sister projects. We have, in our meetings, we have the opportunity for other projects to showcase themselves. So our project is, in fact, trying to make those connections. And so, Niels?
Yeah, and I would slightly disagree with you. Kind of that many problems are talking to each other. Actually, that there is sister projects, and that there are collaborations in between, and that there is networks like this one, and here the colleagues meeting each other and that exchanging. So on that level, that is, I think that is realized. And then also we have, for example, we have FAIR principles, which is exactly organized. Or established due to that to overcome these silos, which is kind of standing for findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and it's very well set in place in terms for the data. It's now also kind of set in place in terms of the digital infrastructure. So climate, the C3S, the climate change service, Copernicus climate change service is almost at 100%, and that fair, but we are there by the end of the year, and that means the infrastructure is organized in that way so that other projects can hook on the infrastructure. There's a huge discussion and many very good solutions around the common European data spaces, that access to information, and then also kind of ingesting new data, and so I think we are moving towards an interoperable Europe, at least, or probably even beyond, with good ideas on how to do it. And yeah, I think the situation that projects or companies or people are not talking to each other, this is not the case anymore.
But I want to give the word to Andrea, because you are in this regional discussion and you say that there are still some problems. So that's actually question 2A.
Yeah, I mean, I will not talk about what on European level will happen, but probably we have a person here who is more reliable to answer this. But just, I was thinking about one problem that you tackled also to your intervention. It's water scarcity. So at the moment there is a meeting now in late October, I think so, in Brussels, and there is a water scarcity and drought group also discussing this issue. Not only how to indicate drought, we know, the European Drought Observatory, as Niels said, we have an intense discussion through many fora, but water scarcity is another issue. It's about the management and about the measures. And this is on local, on regional level, on national level, and sometimes it's difficult to say what is wrong and what is right. It's historical background. And probably many things, when we are not distinguishing what is aridity, what is drought, what is desertification, and what is water scarcity, this is a little bit confusing. But many times the problem which sits in the management. So the wrong mismanagement of the water resources, this is quite crucial problem in many areas in Europe as well. So we are learning from the other countries, Mediterranean countries. They are more used to, for example, lack of water. Like in Slovenia, we are quite happy with the precipitation, but now we are faced with a lot of drought events. So I think that this kind of practice or this kind of management will be introduced and shared among the countries. And I think that projects are excellent examples how we can learn among each other.
So the nations are forced to learn how to share their data, I guess. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just to respond is like, of course, this is an issue and there is still some degree of fragmentation, but there is an effort from the Commission to avoid this proliferation of different platforms for the same purpose. And that's why I invite you to visit Climateurope platform. It's a platform where we are encouraging projects to contribute to centralize, or at least to create a more populated and well-known platform on top of what Neil said about Copernicus, and also for learning experiences, because sometimes it's not only about the data availability, but also about what others already tried. I encourage you to visit the community of practice of the mission adaptation, where you can exchange with a lot of people going through the same issues. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So unfortunately, it's time to end the session. I have a small present here for all the speakers. Maybe one round of applause for them. And if you want to continue the discussions, then please do so in the breaks. You can ask anyone here. Well, the present is a Dutch treat of the season. So thank you all for your presentations.